Good afternoon, Major League Fantasy Football owners. It was a great draft last night. Last night was the first draft of our 5 leagues. I must say before I get started on this video about the free agent auction and roster limits, there was two players that I saw drafted so late in that draft. There's a lot of others we're going to be talking about on the radio show on Sunday. Some of the players that went late, some went early. But Tom Brady, first pick in the 8th round. RG3, 10th pick in the 9th round. Woo! Woo, it was a long night. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get to it. I'll go ahead and do a screen share, and we'll walk through some stuff with the free agent auction. Please bear with me. I'm still a little sick. I'm going to do my best to go through this. Okay, so, excuse me. First things first, the free agent auction here can be somewhat confusing if somebody doesn't actually walk you through it and show you how to do it. It's actually really cool. It's a hell of a lot better of a system than ESPN used to have. But it does take a little bit of a tutorial. So here you can see, all right, first things first, we're going to go to the players page. Go to your team roster first. We go to our team roster, and let's say we're looking at Joe the Jerk. We're looking at Joe I Announce page, and you see that he's got one available open roster slot here. Okay, and you're going to see, yeah, it's just a one spot. So just for example purposes, I'm going to put together a whole process of maybe he wants to swap out. Maybe some of these players have buys this week, some of his lower end guys, and he wants to swap them out for active players or that kind of thing. Let's just put an example together to make this real simple for you. So the first thing you would do, and let's say that he needs to, and I've already kind of started the process with him here too, so maybe I should just go to that. I'll just go to pending transactions right here. Now I'm going to go back to the player screen, and I'm going to add one more safety to who he's picking up. This is the player pool. So I'm just arbitrarily going to pick a guy up. Let's say pick up Thomas Nakud. All right. Here's where you're going to put your bid amount in. Now you can bid anywhere from $1 to $10 on a player. Your max is 10. Your minimum is 1. You cannot go over 10 for any circumstances whatsoever, and your budget for free agents is $100 for the whole year. So use your money wisely. Don't be an idiot and use half your money in the first 2 weeks, or 2/3 of your money in the first 2 weeks, and then you're scraping the rest of the year. You're going to need that money in the mid and late part of the season as well. So don't panic and make a huge bid on a player that's going to cost you later. So let's say we'll bid $1. You just put in the 1 there, and then you go to, oh, and on the right-hand side here, this is another area where you'll be able to look at who's actually on your roster. If you notice to the right, it says active. That means they're all in a starting position. And when you look down here, you'll see your reserve slots. So knowing all of our active positions and knowing we have 8 bench spots, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 reserves, and you can carry 8. So that means this player that we're going to pick up, we're going to send to the bench. We're going to send to reserve, and I'll show you how that works. You click Submit Transaction. Now there's a couple of things that you need to pay attention to here. There's a position that you can. This is an active position that you can put him in. Okay, safety or ID is the utility spot essentially for defense. You can put anybody in there on defense, and then you can add the code and put him at safety and active. When my active lineup's already full, if that processes, he's going to be added to my starting lineup, and my roster is going to be illegal at that point, which is going to cost you some points unless you have time. You'll have time to go back and change your lineup in the meantime, but it will create an illegal roster situation. So be aware of that. Okay, be aware of who's open, what positions are open in your active lineup if you're going to try to send a guy there. But this guy in this situation, this example, I said we had 1 extra bench spot, so we'll send him to reserve. Okay, we click on the OK. Waiting for resolution, meaning waiting for the process to bid. Now there's 2 areas where you can go just from this spot where you can actually go to look at pending transactions. Obviously there's one right here. Okay, and then there is another under the transactions drop down. Okay, pending transactions. You can click on, you can go there, or you can just click on this. Let's just make it real simple. And this is the part that you guys really need to understand. That can be very confusing. Okay, so you're going to have a certain number of groups. You can create as many groups as you want. Okay, for example purposes, well, I got 2 bids on the Dakoud. That's not good. Let me cancel that. All right, so let me go back and add another player real fast. Didn't realize I already had Dakoud in there. And safety. Let's go Rasheed Jones. Go $1. Submit transaction. Set him to reserve. Clicking on pending transaction. Okay, so now you see I got 3 safeties here and a wide receiver. Now let's say, for instance, I really want this wide receiver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him in group number 1, and then I'm going to bump him up. Okay, so Givens is at the top, and Brock, and let's say that, you know, Brock is a guy I might want, but I might not. So I'm going to leave him in group 1. Now group 2 here, this is a completely separate group. Okay, and you can change all your bids from right here too. You see, I bid the minimum. And this is a blind auction, so you're not going to know what everybody else is bidding. You're not going to be able to know that. So you're going to have to make, you know, a calculated decision on how much you're willing to spend on this player. And obviously that's based on team needs and your budget and your matchup and all those things. So it's a major strategy there. But what makes this a great system is that every group that you set up, and again, we can set up as many groups as we want. Let's go back to players. Hold on a second. Let me save my changes. Okay, to make it even easier to understand, let's go back to players and let's add another whole category. Let's add 2 running backs. Let's go with Sims for $1. And obviously, if I know we're going to put him reserve, and you can actually put him on injured reserve because he's injured, but we'll just go with reserve for now. Okay, so we're waiting for that. We're going to be waiting for that to process. If I knew the other person would pick up, I could just plug the name in there, but I'm not 100% sure. So, or who's available? So that's another running back. And let's pick Niles Davis for $1. Submit transaction, reserve, done. Okay, now I'm going to go to pending transactions. We're going to see those 2 new players up here, but we've got a different, let's set up a new group so you see how these groups are set up. So I moved him to group 3 and moved him to group 3. Now you can have, and here's the really cool thing, max number of claims per group. So this group right here, this group number 1, you could actually load up 99 guys into that specific group. You can load up really as many as you want, you know, because you've got, you know, like 50 different groups you could start. So in this group here, where I've got 2 players, I actually can list up to 99 players in this one group. And the player that I have with the highest priority on this list, you see the order right here, order 1, order 2, order 1, order 2. Whoever's at the highest end, whoever's at the top of the list, is going to be the person that I'm going to get if I win the bid. If I don't win the bid on Chris Givens, it's going to go to Brock Vereen. If I win that bid, I'll get him. If I don't win the bid on Brock Vereen, I don't win anything in this group 1. Okay? But it's still, and it doesn't change the fact that you're still going to have these other groups to where you essentially could win all 3 of these groups. You could win Chris Givens, Thomas Dakoud, and Charles Sims, your 3 number 1 players in your group. But here's the ingenious part, is it's only going to select. It's only going to allow you to select 1 person out of each group. So you're only going to have 1 person in each group is going to actually be put on your roster. So this is a way to avoid, you know, you picking up players and giving yourself an illegal roster, because in certain situations, and you're gonna learn this, is that there's going to be our waiver wire is very active every week. And the roster limits are a big part of that. So you're going to have certain weeks, like say on bye weeks, or maybe you have injured players where you need to fill 2 wide receivers holes that week, and you find 2 guys on the wire, and you'll definitely find them. Trust me, there'll be some talent available. And you need to pick up 2. But you don't just want to make 2 bids, because if you lose both those bids, now you're screwed. You have no players. So what you have to do is you set up these different groups. You set up different groups with the number 1 guy you want out of each group at the top. And then the guy you would want behind that guy, second, third, fourth, fifth, or however long you want to make the group for. So you always end up getting the players you want, okay? And that's really big. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. So if you read through, you click on the question mark here, and you guys can obviously do this on your own. We'll read this together. This field allows you to set the maximum numbers of claims the system will successfully execute for each group that you configure. You can set this to default to any number in My Team Preferences, which I'll show you. For example, Group 1, max number of players of claims per group is 1. So you can set the max number of claims per group at 1, or you can set the max number of claims per group at 2. You can change that as you see fit. So in Group 1, for that example, max number of claims per group is 1. So in this situation, this person has 2 claims in right here. In Group 2, this max number of claims out of these 3 claims are 2. So 2 of the 3 players will be picked if you win if you win the bids. So to explain, with this configuration for Group 1, you're telling the system to claim player A first, and if that fails for any number of reasons, e.g. he was already claimed by another owner, to try claiming player B. If you successfully claim player A, the system will not try to claim player B, since you have a max number of claims per group set to 1. Group 2, the system will attempt to claim 2 of the running backs above in the specified order. I think that part's pretty self-explanatory, okay? And then your max number of claims per group right here. So Group 1, I only want 1. I just want 1 out of this group. 1 out of this group. 1 out of that group. That's all I want. So if I don't win any of the free agent auctions, I won't get any of these players. But if I do win, if I win all 3 of my number 1 players in these different groups here, it's only going to take those 3, and it's not going to screw me by grabbing the other players. Okay, so if you need wide receivers, for instance, let's stick with the running back team. We'll make this easy again. We'll make this simple. We'll save the changes. We just want 1 out of each group. I'm going to add just random, just for example purposes. I'm going to add a couple more running backs to the list. Okay. $1. Action. Reserve. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the players pool again, and I'm going to grab another running back. We're going to put 4 of them in there. Reserve. Okay. Now let's go back to our pending transactions. So now we've got 2 more running backs in this group. Okay, and again, you can move them up real easy. The arrows, you move them up and down to the priority. Your priority is here in this group. See Group 3, priority 1, 2, 3, 4. Group 2, 1, 2. Group 1, you see the idea. And your max claims per group is the one that's going to tell me how many players in that group you want to take. So let's say I needed 2 running backs that week. I need to pick up 2 supplementary running backs that week. Or maybe I need to pick up 2 because I got an injury, and I'm picking up the backup running back from X team. So I set it at 2, and this situation here for this group, it's going to attempt to draft 2 of these 4 players. If I win the bid for 2 of these 4 players, I'll get 2 of the 4. I'm not going to know whether I'm going to get the top 2 or the bottom 2 or the middle 2 or any variation other than that. Your bids are going to depend on whether you win them or not. But this is how you control how many players you take from each group. Okay? So let's say, same example, the week I'm trying to get these 2 running backs, I also need 2 safeties. Or 1 safety. So I set up a completely separate group just for that position, for safety. I set up a completely separate group for running backs because it's a high need. Now you can mix them up like I did right here, like you're just taking a shot at this guy. You don't really need him, but you're thinking that you might want to take a shot at him, and you're willing to drop $1 on him if you can get him for $1. So you mix and match. But when it comes down to need at a position, Okay, you want to set these groups up separately based on position. It's not really all that hard to understand. If you need to listen to this video a few times, I would suggest doing it so you understand it, and then play around with it a little bit so you understand as well. And this little question mark right here will also help you understand. That will also help you understand a little bit more, even though I'm doing this little walkthrough with you. So I think this is a much better system than ESPN. It's much better. There's more to it. There's a little bit more legwork, but it's going to be really easy. Once you do it a couple of times, it'll be very easy, and you'll definitely like it because you have so much more control over your waiver claims and who goes first and all that other stuff than on ESPN. It's so much better. And again, don't forget that you can change your bid amounts right here. Like if I wanted to switch that to $21, I could change it right there. Okay. Now next, excuse me. Next, I'm going to show you where you can change. I think what did it say? The maximum claims per system. I'll show you where you can change that. You just go to your, and if you haven't already done this too on your My Team Preferences, I'll point this out to you. Go to your My Team Preferences. Okay. Make sure all your privacy preferences are unchecked. Everybody needs to know your phone number, your name, and all that good stuff. We don't allow ghosts in our league. We communicate with each other. Okay. Now through your general preferences, you need to play around with this because this is like control, and you can basically build your roster screens how you want them to look. From the default, you can obviously change it when you're on the page too. Same thing with the player screen. That's the free agent pool, live scoring screen, claims and drops. So your default max per group, you can change. I would always have show extra confirm when I want claim drop too. Always have that checked. You can actually change the default here to say like, and you can obviously change it over at that screen too. Okay, see, so I'm changing the default to 10. And then I go down. These are all your email preferences. Then I go down and save it. I make sure I save it. Okay, so everything's been loaded up. You see that that's now 10. Okay, pending transactions. The next group, like if I started another group, let me see if it defaults to 10. Yep, there it goes. Okay, so it automatically just defaults that to 10. But again, you can change it while you're right here. It's just, it's just easy. It's an easy way for you to create a default that makes sense. Let's put these back in 3. Okay, and you see it. You see when I move those guys, it moved this guy. Jacquizz Rodgers was at the bottom, and he got moved up a couple of slots. So you want to be very cognizant of how to use this system. I'm telling you, it is an awesome system, and I've spent a good amount of time trying to figure it out. And the more I learn about it, the more I like it. So keep abreast to the situation. Understand it. Real quick, max claims per group. There's a group. This group's only going to take one of these 2 players if you win the bid. This group's only going to take one of 2 players if you win the bid. This group of 4 is going to take 2 out of the 4, depending on if you win those bids. And the priority is at the top. You win the bid on these 2 guys, you're going to get those 2 guys. If you miss the bid on those 2 and you win the bid on these 2, you're going to get those 2. If you miss it on all 3 of those and you only win it on the last one, you're only going to get 1 because that's the only one that's left in the group. Okay, I think that's about enough of that. But it does take a good amount of time to understand that, and I wanted to make sure that I reiterated things several times because I know it can get somewhat confusing. And I pointed you guys all to the league rules summary. The next thing we're going to hit on is the roster limits. Seems like everybody basically drafted more wide receivers and running backs than you're allowed to carry. Okay, here's your right in this section here, other league rules summary, roster limits. Okay, quarterback you could have 2, running back 4, wide receiver 5, tight end 2, running back wide receiver positions. You can't carry any extra guys. Okay, this isn't actually a position. Okay, but you can carry up to 12. Let's see, 2, 6, 11, 13. Excuse me. You can carry up to 13 offensive guys, and then you got and this 1-1 is an internal thing that Fantrax has to fix because RWWT is not a position. It's just it's a flex spot. and you can't list this to 0 right now, or you won't have these 2 positions. So defensive end, you can carry 4. You can carry 3 defensive tackles. You can carry up to 6 linebackers. You can carry 4 corners, 4 safeties. Again, nobody carries individual defenders, but I had to leave it at 1 or else we couldn't use the position. Kickers you can carry 2. You'd be a complete bonehead to carry any more than 1. But if you like being a bonehead, please feel free to carry 2 kickers. Now 6 linebackers, you can put 4 in at the same time, and you're going to need the rotation capabilities with some of the extra positions that you're going to have that you can put on your bench with your defensive guys. You're going to need that a little bit more than you're going to need with offense. Now offense is very thin. It's not nearly as deep as defense because you have 11 individual players on your team, not to mention that an NFL team trots out 11 guys every down, and all 11 of those guys can make a play that would fit into a fantasy format. On offense, you're trotting 11 guys out on the field, and only 6 of those guys, by and large, are going to have really any impact whatsoever in fantasy. So, and the average team uses 8, 9, 10 skill position players a game, usually about 9, and that's where we come up with this number of 9 starters. You have 9 starters on offense. You have 1 kicker. You have 11 people on defense. Now, also the number 4. There's 30 teams in the NFL, or is it 32? Anyhow, if you carry 4 running backs on 12 teams apiece, that's 48 running backs off the board. If every team decided they wanted to take 4. Now, not every team's going to have 4. The majority of teams will have 4. Maybe one has 3, or 1 or 2 have 3. But you're going to have 48 running backs out of the system. Now, there are running backs still left out there every single year. It happens every single year without clockwork. I've been doing this for a long time with these free agent auctions. There's always going to be players out there you'll be able to utilize in our systems. But yeah, we don't want to have more than 48 running backs off the board. We want to leave some depth in the pool, and for you to be able to go out and pick up free agent running backs if you need a replacement. Wide receivers, you can carry, and the other thing, you can start 4 running backs, but you don't have to start 4. You only have to start 2. You don't have to start 4. So look at if you got 4 running backs, look at your other 2 running backs. If you went running back heavy with beast running backs, well, then you're going to start all 4 of those guys. You went light on wide receivers, then your wide receivers are going to be your bench guys. But your wide receivers, you have to start 2, and you have 5. You can carry up to 5, and you can actually start all 5. 1 tight end, you can start up to 2 tight ends. You got the wide receiver tight end flex here, and then you got the RW flex. That's a running back wide receiver flex. So if you're a guy that went heavy running backs, you can start all 4 running backs. 2 wide receivers, because you got these 2 spots here for running backs. These 2, you can start 2 wide receivers, slap a tight end in there and a quarterback, and you're good to go. So you have flexibility, much flexibility. However, you're not being allowed to corner the market in the running back and wide receiver position just because. There's other areas of what we do that makes us who we are. And part of what we do is the player pool. And there's going to be a lot of players available, freaking kickers. There's going to be a lot of players available for you to pick up on a week-to-week basis on defense and offense at the wide receiver position. There'll be some tight ends that you could spot start. So what this really is, our leagues are a very good blend of daily fantasy mixed with a season-long format. I mean, it's a very nice blend of the 2 things. And every week you're going to be compelled to make spot starts, pick guys up off the wire. That's part of the model. That's what this league is designed to do. It's to test your ability to find these little diamonds in the rough. When you get into the bye weeks, especially, and that's how we decide who is the better owner. If you're doing the work, if you can find good matchups on players that are sitting on the wire that are obviously not owned in about 99% of the fantasy leagues out there, well, good for you. I mean, you deserve some sort of benefit from that. And you'll see the wide receiver position. Now, once you guys release all the excess wide receivers that you have on your roster, this will be a much deeper pool. But there's going to be players in this pool that are, Andre Roberts is definitely one of them that you'll want to spot start throughout the season. Ted Ginn's another one. That's another guy you'll want to spot start here and there, depending on the team that he's playing against. Donnie Avery. I mean, I can make a case for everyone. Tons of these guys. Harry Douglas as well. I could make a case for just spot starting these guys at some point during the season. And then your running back situations. What we have left right now, running backs are, either rookies or handcuffs or people that may or may not get a lot of playing time. But you never know, man. Charles Sims may end up being the starting running back if Tampa has the same injury problems that they had last year. So these guys are all going to be sitting out there for the grabbing if you need them at some point during the season. So I think we pretty much hit the key points that I wanted to hit today. And I'll do another tutorial video on some other stuff later on. I just have to ask you guys real quick, how the heck did you let Joe get this defense? Dunlap, Watt, Casey, Freeman. Let's look at I couldn't believe when the draft was over. Look at what these guys did just last year. Dunlap, Watt, Casey, Freeman, Levy, Ogletree, D. Milliner, Buster Screen, Jarris Bird, Harrison Smith, Gibson, Anger, Foster, Shields. Oh, my God. And you got Tom Brady in the first pick in the 8th round. I think you guys were tipping back on Grandpa's old cough medicine or something. Anyhow, I'll go ahead and wrap up the video from here. Thank you very much for listening, guys. I hope you appreciate the amount of time and effort that I put into this. And I'm sick as a dog at this point, but I just don't want to leave you guys. I don't want to leave you hanging because I know Fantrax can be somewhat complex, and I understand it pretty well. So I figured I'd do the video for you, and hopefully this has been helpful. If you need anything, you know how to contact me. Drop a message on the message board, hit me my email, give me a call, a text, whatever. But until next time, good luck.